Hi everyone, today we're working on my Jeep. We're putting the transmission back in it because we had the wrong bell housing. And now we finally got the new one from Advanced Adapter, which is right there, to couple with our T176. And it is going back into my 1980 CJ7, which is currently undergoing an LS swap. So we're gonna get started on that, mate the bell housing up, and get rolling. Alright, so the transmission is in. The main reason why I had to switch the bell housing out, because I had to go into depth with this with a friend of mine recently, was the original engine for this Jeep was the GM Iron Duke, which does in fact share the same bell housing pattern as the LS platform. But the Duke used a 153 tooth flywheel, whereas the LS series and other small blocks and big blocks use a 168 tooth. Therefore, I ran into a clearance problem with the LS fitting onto the Duke's original bell housing. Now, if you did run a small block, you could use the Duke bell housing and just use the smaller flywheel, but unfortunately that's not an option for the LS. So this video is also going to be mostly a lot of time lapses because, let's face it, the phase I'm in is just mainly time oriented. There's a lot of things just take a while. That, and I don't always have the most amount of time in the world to do things, which is why you'll see several outfit changes, because those are either different days, different nights. Overall, there's just a lot of nights and time put into this, but also it has to be spread across several days. So what I've been working on recently has been all the electronics and wiring, which is still a bit of a mess, but significantly better than it used to be, and I'm hoping to get that all buttoned up within the next couple days. We just have to run our primary power, which is coming from our Eaton fuse block, just tucked away in here. And yeah, that's kind of where we're at. We did get our radiator hoses on and in place, which they're just universal style elbows with a coupler. We did get our power steering hose in place, which you can't really see it very well, but it is an Earl's 6AN style, pretty hefty hose for what it is. One thing I don't think I've shown, actually I know for a fact I haven't shown, is our dashboard, which we'll get it more into later, but we're going to be wiring up all the gauges for it. Well, the gauge is already wired, but we need to run everything from the motor to the gauge module, because I did go with Dakota Digital, and that's kind of where we're sitting right now. I'm hoping to have all that done as soon as we can, and who knows, we might even get to start this thing in the next week or two. And I'm probably going to play a few more time lapses just of wiring, and then we'll see what else we get into. Alright, so we got most of the wiring is in place. I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but we redid every wire on this Jeep. Not most of it was filmed because I just didn't think of it. But every single piece of wire, the entire chassis, the engine harness was borrowed from the donor vehicle, but it's been chopped and modified to fit. We are not going to be starting it anytime soon, but most of the wiring is officially in place. As you'll see, so we do have lighting. There are a lot of issues with it. There's a lot of gremlins. Certain things don't work as intended, but given that this is my first time, and I'm kind of learning as I go, I knew the basic concepts of wiring, but as far as redoing an entire chassis, it was quite a bit beyond my expertise and experience level. But this is kind of what we're left with. We have our fuse block, which I still need to make a label plate to identify what is what. It's a little bit of a mess of wiring, but it's not the dirtiest I've seen. At least there's no exposed wire with the exception of this, which that still needs to get cleaned up. I still need to make a patch cut plate for that. We did put the engine covers back on, which surprisingly do clear the hood. That does not. We're waiting on a new pipe for that. And we even got our backlit switch panel working, which I think is a nice little touch. And we do have power on the key. Had power on the key. There we go. We have power on the key, so the gauges all work. I don't know if you could hear, but the fuel pump did kick on. We do need to either make or modify the tongue cover and put a lot of this back together. There's all the wires that should be feeding the gauges, but as we're not trying to start it, I'm not too worried about it. We're just gonna deal with those shortly. But overall, I'm very satisfied. I'm happy that it's actually coming together, albeit with issues. But we're actually going to push this out of the garage today because I have to make room for my daily driver because it needs quite a bit of work. I have to redo some of the AC components, fix some of the lighting, and just I've been neglecting it because I've been too busy with this. But yeah, I think that's where we're going to wrap all this up for this time. I will more than likely try to film, especially when I do the first start. We still have to do exhaust, which that's a big portion of why I won't start it, being that there's no O2 sensors hooked up. And I am still running the factory computer, so it does need a closed loop 4-sensor system, which, I mean, give and take on some of that. I wanted to keep it compliant with California emissions, even though I am not currently in California, but there's a chance I could be moving there at some point. So we're trying to do things the right way as best as we can. Yeah, just in closing, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.